well, you get out what you put in. Like if you plant an apple tree, you're not going to get oranges. You're going to get an apple. So whatever you plant in your mind is what you're going to get.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling here in Iowa.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our vice president in charge of the behavioral health department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are a podcast designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is a returning guest. We've got Adam Wilson back on the show today. You'll remember Adam Wilson from our episode, Men's Mental Health. And Adam is returning back to us today to talk about men's mental health and health coaching. So welcome back, Adam. Thanks for being here. Now, in the time that between our last episode and now, you've really taken a focus on wellness. When it comes to men's health, and you are a certified health coach, so that makes a lot of sense. Tell us a little bit about what kind of updates we can expect.
Oh man. So since I've last been on here, I know before my podcast was called Hustle and Heal, and it was a remote podcast. I'm actually in person now. I updated my show name to the Inner King Initiative because I wanted it to be a focus for men to say, okay, this space is for me, right? And I've had women audience members who love it because they get to learn like the side of manhood that they wouldn't be able to learn on a regular basis, right? So I've been having a lot of conversations with therapists, as well as other just everyday men who wanted to come on and share their stories. I've had therapists, I've had a guy come on and share things he'd never shared with anybody before, and how he was molested as a kid. He even cried in the episode. So it's been very empowering to do it. And ever since then as well, I actually spun up my community that I had last time, actually. I rebranded it, redid it, and now I actually have members this time, right? And so now every Saturday I meet with the guys. We have great conversations. A lot of the guys I just recently met when they got into the community, and I've gotten them to feel really comfortable about, some of the things that they're dealing with, and just seeing like the brotherhood come together. It gives me that drive to keep going, even those days where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
That's awesome. So first of all, where are you located at?
I'm in Houston,
on
Texas.
The first episode, so if you've said this before, sorry.
Oh, good. So I'm in Houston, Texas.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'm curious about, I know you mentioned it's an in-person podcast, so do you have live audience members there attending? And then what can people expect like from your episodes? It sounds like you interview mostly men about their past experiences. Can you give us some background on like what people can expect? And then, is it live audience members that people can come and watch the episodes then?
So currently, no. I'm
Okay.
actually, this month, I'm doing a whole, it's mental health awareness month. So I have to do this whole mental, detox of my body. So I've been kind of slowing down on podcasting. But when I come back, I actually want to do in-person events where people can actually come, get tickets, come to the show. But also part of my community, I'm adding a tier to it to where we can have a Zoom call like this, and people can come on and ask questions to my guests that come on. I was really looking at my concept and especially talking to the guys that own the studio that I rent from. And we were kind of collaborating. And one thing that came up the most was giving people access to ask questions and things. And I was like, man, that would really take the show to the next level. And so that's one thing I'm working on now, because I want just people to have the access, especially when I have a therapist on, like, hey, come on and ask a question, because I'm not gonna have all the questions, and it will help just, help people out.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about what informed this kind of transition for the work that you're doing, because I know that you were you were doing a lot of work previously, and it was kind of a different side of things. So what kind of sparked this transition?
Honestly, as I refined myself, I started to figure out my lane a little bit more. And so it was everything started at the beginning of the year for some reason. I was doing Hustle and Hill last time we talked, but it didn't feel right for me. I was like, I don't know about this. Like, it just doesn't feel right for me. I think 2020 did a number on everybody's mental health to where it's like everybody wants to be virtual now because I can just get on here, click off, and go back to my room and do whatever I want to do. But I started to crave the in-person interactions because I feel as though in person I can feel your energy, you can feel my energy, and we can actually make magic, right? Even with my own, I was actually talked about it this morning on Threads that I want to go back to therapy. I haven't done therapy in like 6 months, and I said I want to go back to therapy, but this time it has to be in person. I can't do the virtual thing. So at the beginning of the year, one day I just woke up and I said, man, I have to do this in person. I have to do this like how I really want to do it, how I pictured it at the beginning. And I just took charge and I said, I can't keep waiting for things to be perfect. I have to just do it now. And it's been blossoming ever since.
So you've done virtual therapy then, and you want to go back to in-person. Can you kind of talk about the difference for you in in-person versus virtual therapy?
So I've actually never done in-person therapy. I started my first therapist, I found him in 2021. 2021? Yeah, 2021, 2022, one of those 2 years. But it was virtual. Everything was already virtual by then. Because before that, I was like, I don't know about therapy. Why am I going to therapy? Because, I never heard really good things about therapy, but I decided to try it. And so my last 2 therapists were virtual. So this time I want to try it different.
Yeah, what are you hoping to experience with that live version of therapy? Sometimes people are looking for very different things when they're looking at switching from virtual therapy to in person. What are some of those things that you're looking for, and how do you visualize kind of expressing that to that therapist so that they know what you're really looking for?
So for me personally, honestly, I'm looking for a space where I can just like kind of go off and not be distracted by every 50 million thing that happens, right? So at home, I'm the leader of my household. I have 3 kids, I have a wife, a dog. So it's like, if I'm home, I'm thinking about home. I'm on this call with my therapist, but I have to get off in like 5 minutes because my child needs X, Y, and Z. So I want to actually take time to say, okay, let me drive to therapy so I can have that mental space. Because I've gotten to the point now where I do not listen to the radio in the car. And so it's like, let me get to that mental space and actually figure out what I want to talk about on my way there. And then I can get that in-person interaction. Virtual, it was like, okay, I have therapy in 5 minutes. Let me just go in the room and just start talking. And I'm like, okay, what am I talking about? Right. So for me, it's the preparation before, as well as just the interperson interaction and energy.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to like have like that separate space too. Because when you're right, probably at home you're like hearing your kids and your dog and everything going on outside of that room too.
Exactly.
So like kind of having your own space. I'm curious. I heard you say you don't listen to the radio in the car anymore, which I think sounds crazy. That's why I usually listen to like music and have it like so loud and like on yourself. So I'm curious, like what caused that change where now you don't listen to it, and like what are you doing during that time?
So as I think more about like the mind-body connection, right? I'm looking at, okay, even though we're not like watching something, when we're hearing things, our body is still ingesting. So if your body's ingesting, how is it digesting what you've already gotten? So I take that quiet time because that quiet time is when your brain can process. You can actually think through things. I think when we look at TV or music or those type of things, sometimes it can become a distraction. So for me, it's part of my preparation of anything I want to go into, because I want to go into with a clear mind. Like I don't want to listen to country hip hop or whatever. And then like I have like thug mentality or whatever, right? Or cowboy mentality. And then I'm going into a professional setting where I need to be who I am. So it allows me to detox for myself. I'm even getting away from social media because it's a lot now. Somebody's always trying to sell you something. There's toxic music going on. It's always something. So for me, those times are when I can really just talk to myself and connect with myself and prepare.
Wonderful. Yeah, it is a we're metabolizing things all the time. And when we're not aware that we're metabolizing things all the time, we're going to take things in that we don't intend to take in. And so
Exactly.
even if we're listening to the radio and we go, no, this is my, this is the channel that I like. This is the kind of music that I like. But we're going to hear commercials. We're going to hear ads for other things during that time that we didn't intend to take into to
Exactly.
our minds. And so I love that idea because it's just like with food, right? When we're not aware of what the ingredients are in the food that we're eating, we're going to eat things
Exactly.
that we didn't intend to eat. I didn't know that chemical was that. I wasn't buying that chemical to eat that, right? And so same thing with what we're bringing into our bodies and into our minds when it comes to those distractions, social media, and even music. And the way that you phrased
Absolutely.
it, I thought was so great because you said, I've gotten myself to the point where I'm not listening to the radio in the car anymore. And for somebody listening going like, oh my gosh, how would we do that? How would we not have an earbud in our ear
Right.
constantly, right? Can you tell us about those challenges and kind of how you overcame that to get to that point?
So one day at a time, honestly. A lot of times when we think about making changes in our lives, it has to be this big, like, boom, change. And it's like, it doesn't have to be all that. Just change one thing at a time. So it would be one day, I'd be like, oh, let me just turn the radio off and, go. And I've gotten so used to it. And I think a lot of us run away. We always have to have music, TV in the background, something, because we're running away from our own mind. And run away from ourselves. And so if we really want to discover who we are and our purpose, or, even things that just make you happy in life, you have to sit with yourself sometimes, right? We'll sit with other people and have conversations, go to eat lunch or brunch or whatever, but won't sit with ourselves. And so it took just one day at a time, just like, okay, maybe like once a week, twice a week. The habit became consistent over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about the name of your podcast, The Inner King. Like, where'd that name come from? And can you explain like what that means, The Inner King?
So I believe that as men, as women, like, we're all royalty inside of ourselves, right? Everything that you do comes from internal, right? And so as men, I said we have to rise up and be kings, because we're supposed to be dominant in our homes. We're supposed to be dominant in our careers. We're supposed to be dominant as kings are and have dominion over ourselves. And so I said, man, let's go internal and let's stop looking at the 3 steps to get to financial wealth, or the 10 steps to find your inner self, and really sit with yourself and become that king you're supposed to be, or you were made to be.
I love that, because the idea of kings right now in America, right, maybe it has a different connotation, but I think that difference is what are we trying to control? Are we trying to control ourselves and our world and our experiences, or are we trying to control other people in their world
Exactly.
and their experiences? And so, when we think about a king of any kind, a lot of times it is that sense of like, oh, there's power, right? And there is power in that word and in that connotation. And so when we focus on that inner, I think that's a beautiful metaphor, because we have power over our experiences and our lives and what we do and how we behave and how we react. And we don't need that power over other people, and other people don't honestly need that power over us. We have it. So I love that it's that inner power and that inner king. So what are some of the ways that you've seen people find it challenging to embrace that inner power when there's so much external powers that are trying to control our daily lives?
So it goes back to me riding silent in the car, right? You have to block out those external noises sometimes. Actually, back in February, I booked 4 days in a cabin by myself and went to the woods, and everybody thought I was crazy. What are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just in nature, exploring myself, thinking to myself, just trying to get things going, because I have this goal in my mind. I have to really disconnect from everything. So a lot of people have trouble disconnecting. You get on social media and you get these dopamine hits because you see, oh, this person's driving this car, this person's driving that car. And then you look at your own life and you're like, I don't have any of this. Like, I'm behind. And so you get those self-doubt. The external creates self-doubt, depending on what you're looking at. So I actually just finished watching a movie called A Beautiful Mind. Somebody referred me to watch it, and the guy has schizophrenia, John Nash. He has schizophrenia, and he has these people following him, telling him that he's awful and having him do these things that aren't real. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh, that's our mind. Literally, that's our mind, because we have that voice in the head like, God, you can't do it. And towards the end of the movie, John says, somebody asked John, are those people still there? He says, yeah, they're still here, but I decided to ignore them. And the fact that I started to ignore them, they just gave up. Like, so it's, if you're not feeding the doubt, the doubt isn't growing.
Yeah, I love that movie. And, it's interesting because last week we interviewed somebody who talked about schizophrenia and parts theory and kind of the connections there. They talked about utilizing interventions that we would use for clients with schizophrenia for general public, for everybody who's struggling with anything, because when we think about family systems, when we think about parts theory, we all have those parts within us.
Yep.
And sometimes they're louder than others. Sometimes they appear to us visually or auditorily, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just that nagging feeling there that says, why aren't you doing this thing you're supposed to do, right? Why are you doing this other thing? Why don't you have this thing the other person has? And so sometimes even that feeling, even if it doesn't have a voice, even if it doesn't have a personification in our minds, are still there for all of us. We can kind of relate in that way. And those techniques that work for those clients that have schizophrenic symptoms are applicable for all of us. So I love that. And I love that movie because in the end, right, somebody approaches him, Russell Crowe, right? I think somebody approaches him and he says to some guy next to him, hey, you can see this guy, right? Like, this guy's here.
He got one of his students.
Yeah, and he goes,
I was like, hey, he's real, right? She's like, yeah. He's like, you can see her? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay.
Okay, I'll talk to him, right? And I love that, because that's what we talk about with fact checking our lives, right? We get these assumptions about ourselves, about our world, about other people, and what was good for him, which was fact checking, hey, is this person standing here? Is this a person? Is what we can do in our own lives for ourselves. So when we see like, hey, this person got a new car, I'm behind. Wait a minute, let's fact check the I'm behind. Let's also fact check that person got a new car.
Right.
That's not always the case either.
Why does that care? Why do you care? Why do you care? But see, we've grown up in such a microwave society that everybody wants it quickly. So it's that extra step is an inconvenience for a lot of people, but that extra step can get you to where you really want to be, or the happiness that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And, when you talk about like that decision to ignore, it's the acknowledging, right, what's coming from us. We're going to acknowledge that. We're going to feel that feeling. And then we're going to make a decision. Is that right for us or not, based on that fact checking? And so if we make that decision and we're intentional about it, just like what we're intentional about what's coming in with the radio, with social media, with other people's opinions, when we're intentional about that, we're also being intentional about what's going out. And so we say, yeah, this is my temptation, is to react this way. And I'm not going to follow that temptation. I'm going to make a conscious choice about how I respond now. And I think that's so illustrated just really beautifully, especially at the end of that movie. I love that part, because it applies to all of us. We can't opt out of that. We all are humans. We all have these human minds that don't always do what we want them to.
Exactly. We all have a past, but you get out what you put in. Like, if you plant an apple tree, you're not going to get oranges. You're going to get an apple. So whatever you plant in your mind is what you're going to get.
Yeah. I heard you mention too, like making time for yourself is important. Like you make time for friends and family and go to lunch and things like that. And then obviously you went to a cabin by yourself for 4 days, so you really took that like making time for yourself like a long time. Like that's impressive. If somebody's interested in like starting that process, and I know you mentioned it's like 1 day at a time, like what can they do to like get more comfortable like spending time alone? Because I feel like for some people that is a big struggle and they don't want to be with their own thoughts and think about things all by themselves.
Honestly, you have to just do it. Honestly, it's a choice to do. You choose if you want to turn on the radio, or if you want to play your video game, or watch something, on TV. It's a choice. So you have to make that choice to say, okay, this is where I'm trying to get in my life. Let me do it to go. But one way to start would really just be starting, just trying it, even if for 5 minutes, a minute, something. It will, over time, you'll get more consistent with it, and you'll be able to do it longer. We don't have to start off at, let me start now, and every ride I'm gonna be quiet, because I still listen to the radio. Like at the beginning, I don't do it anymore. At the beginning, I would still listen to the radio. Like some days, it was just depending how I felt in that day. But then I realized it's like, oh, I can't go off of how I feel. I have to go off of what's logical and what's best for me. And so when I started to reframe my thoughts around it, that's when it became easier for me. But it's that imaginary fear everybody has that stops them from doing a lot of things.
Absolutely. And sometimes thinking about what is the smallest amount of risk I'm able to take right now and still feel safe. So you talked about, wherever we go, there we are, right? We can't run away from ourselves. Like we're still here, whether the TV's on and we're watching a movie or not, we're still here. And so sometimes, being alone with our thoughts can be a really scary concept or idea. And so if we think about, okay, what's the shortest period of time though, that those thoughts could maybe not harm me, right? So if I turn that off for 30 seconds, do I feel like I would be harmed? If I turn it off for 10 seconds, right? Is 10 seconds of being alone with myself feel harmful? Well, we get down to a certain point and we go, no, that doesn't feel harmful. That doesn't feel scary. That doesn't feel risky. Great, let's start there, right? And then we experience going 10 seconds without the radio on or without our earbud in or whatever it is. And then we go, okay, 10 seconds didn't actually hurt me, right? It continues to not hurt me. Let's go 20 seconds then. And we can kind of increase that as we go, experiencing the safety of it at that lowest level that we think still feels safe. So I love that. My husband and I will do kind of separate trips sometimes. Like every September, he goes to another state for a race. And so sometimes I'll do my own thing. And when we first started doing that, my parents were calling like almost every day because they thought we were going to get divorced. They're like, why are you going on separate vacations, right? What's going on? And we said, no, if anything, the fact that we're able to do our own thing, for us feels like a sign that no, things are good. Things are going well because we're able to do that. And we both feel comfortable to do that and be able to be ourselves outside of the relationship because, you've talked about it a little bit when talking about being home and being head of household, being with the kids are around and the dogs around and our wife or our partner is around. And it can be very difficult to separate ourselves out from those relationships around us. And it sounds like you've been doing a lot of really personal work with trying to do that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
So I believe being able to say, I need a break is super powerful because a lot of people don't say it. And when you look at like a lot of work environments, a lot of people do not leave the job or the job title. They leave the company, they leave the manager because they feel overworked, burned out. And it's the same thing at home. If I'm dealing with this every day and I don't get a break, unless our kids are kids, right? And I have a toddler, so I need a break, right? And so it was like, I will feel myself getting really like stressed out and it was stopping my production. I was like, okay, I have to figure this out. That's how I ended up in the woods, really. But when I came back from the woods, I realized I was like, man, I have been going at 100 miles a minute. I just stopped 5 days ago for May 1st, right? And I'm like, okay, now I have to take another break and recalibrate. I'm actually, to your point, me and my wife take separate trips sometimes too. Well, we do things separately and we do things together. But let's be honest, in a relationship, we're human, right? Your spouse can be gone tomorrow, or y'all can divorce, they can pass away, something can happen. And if you're doing everything together, when that person is gone, you're going to be like, oh, what do I do now? Right? Actually, in 30 days, I'm going to a men's retreat in California by myself. My wife is like, okay, well, bye, have a good time. But she knows I'm going to come back recharged, and it's going to pour down into everybody else, especially me being the head of the house, right? It always starts at the top. So that's why I said a lot of the most successful leaders know how to take a break and know the well-being of their employees is top priority over profits or anything.
Yeah. What is the retreat that you're going on? Can you give us some info about that and like what types of things you'll be doing at it?
So actually I just got told the other day I cannot show up as a coach. I have to show up as a guest. And so, because any space I walk in, I always go straight into coach mode. And so it's going to be in California in the mountains. So you're taking us away, secluded, and just brotherhood is 15 guys. We're all coming together, just talking. I'm pretty sure we're going to be in the Bible a little bit. Just talk about manhood, mental health, and just sharing, just giving each other the time to take a break. There's even a scheduled day where it's like, all right, we're going to the beach. Like, let's go and just enjoy ourselves. So it's just time for us as men to connect, because I think that's super important. A lot of the most successful people or the happiest people have a community around them. And that's one thing I definitely learned in the last 6 months, is have a good community. Because there's days where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to hang it up. It's not working. And then they be like, oh, no, keep going. You got this. Like, you're sitting on a gold mine. Just keep working. And so for me, I'm accepting the approach as a guest because I'm actually planning my own retreat, my first one in September. And so this is giving me an opportunity to go as a guest and see the experience and feel it. So that way, as I'm working on mine, I can have that mindset of saying, okay, how do I want to feel when I show up to this retreat? Or how do I want to feel when I leave?
Absolutely. I think sometimes sometimes we need, it's the reason why, work retreats and self-improvement or business improvement retreats are so popular, because for so many people, and it kind of goes back to, your hustle and healing platform, where for so many people that I need to take a break because I need to take a break doesn't feel acceptable to us. And so, but something like, hey, I'm going to go to this retreat. I'm going to learn a bunch of stuff. I'm going to network a bunch. I'm going to, right. Then it's like, oh, that's an okay way to relax. And what you're saying here is, yes, absolutely. That's great. But also an okay way to relax is to lay on the floor for an hour. Right? Like, that's also
and just silence. I love it. I'll go sit in the garage, and when it rains, and just sit there and just watch the rain. Like, I'm attracted to peace, right? And so for me, if it doesn't bring me peace, you can't come around, or it can't be around. I don't want to be in the environment. I'm the one who will leave an environment mid-show or something just because I don't feel at peace there.
Well, and it speaks to, this kind of transition that you've had, because you said that, what you were doing before just didn't feel right, and you use that for, like, it just didn't feel right. And you were able to pivot from that based on that feeling. And what that means is that you accepted that that's a valid feeling. And sometimes, so many times, we wait until we have a good reason, we wait until we,
the perfect conditions.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how you help people to, because I know you're all about like breaking generational patterns and helping people to build that strong life. So so many times that involves being agile, being able to pivot based on how we're feeling. So how do you kind of support people in doing that?
So I like to take the accountability partner type of roles in some cases, because like back to what you said earlier, a lot of people are scared to sit with themselves or really figure out the root of their issues. And so I challenge the men that I talk to, and I'm even creating workshops that go into corporate spaces to talk about, or either like men retreats and stuff, to actually talk about taking that break and actually sitting with yourself and actually like getting rooted into yourself, right? And so I help the guys to see that, like, hey, take the challenge of, like, I have a client who works 6 days a week. And like in our first conversation, I was like, that's not even feasible for you as a person, as a human. You're going to break down. And I was like, how do you feel about doing 4 days a week? And he was like, I actually really love that idea. And he started doing it. He was like, man, I love this. So it's a lot of just challenging to see a new perspective of your life, because the life that we experience is what we perceive.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure like having people, like, why don't you try this instead? Like challenging them to do that. They might not think to do it on their own. And like Julie said, then you mentioned that one of your goals is helping people break generational patterns. Can you kind of discuss like what type of patterns you may be working with clients or the men you work with on breaking?
So a lot of men growing up, we weren't taught like how to lead families. We weren't taught to like even share our emotions. Even in the episode when the guy started crying, like he was like trying to cover it up. And I was just like, this is a prime example of he shed a tear, and it was just like, I can't show people I'm shedding a tear. Right. And even in that moment, I was like, oh, this is going to be so great for the episode. But the coach in me was like, let it out. Just let it out. Right. And so that's usually like the type of realm I like to sit in, because let's break it down. Why are you acting like this? Why are you spending like this? Because when you get to the root of the problem, you fix the problem that you fix the problem that you thought you had. For me, primarily, I thought I was just like addicted to sugar. And I was like, why am I always buying candy? Like, I hate this. Right. But then when I went back, I realized I watched my dad do it. I realized a lot of his bad eating habits, eating out and stuff, I watched him do it. And so as a child, I was picking up those things. And even looking at my kids now, my son is 8 now. And I'm like, okay, you guys literally watch everything, every single thing that goes on in the room. And kids do that. And we internalize so much, whether it's our parents, our teachers, our friends, kids internalize so much, and it just gets so jumbled up. That goes back to the sitting with yourself and the distractions. It's like, okay, what am I really like? Why am I doing this? Really getting to the root problem. Why am I doing this? And not saying, okay, I'm just going to work on it as I go. Like, no, make the decision to look at it now and work on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that approach because it's awareness, it's not blame, right? So the personal accountability that you're modeling is, I'm the one buying these things, right? I'm the one buying it. I'm the one eating it. I'm a full grown adult. I'm the one doing it. And I can understand where that came from or why I might be doing it. And when I understand why I might be doing it, then I can change it. I can be intentional about it, because, when we're upset, when we're tired, when we're overwhelmed, that's when those automatic behaviors are going to come out. And
stress
so,
eating.
Yes, absolutely. Anytime that we go, okay, when I'm stressed, that's kind of the test of what are my habits, what's actually ingrained in me, what do I think when I'm stressed is going to help me feel better, right? Or get through the situation. And so when we're starting those new habits, or we're being intentional about the direction that we want to take with our lives and our choices, once we can make a lot of changes behaviorally on the surface, but going into an understanding and talking out and having other people kind of point a light on, hey, here's a pattern, right? So when things do get stressed, this is what happens. Let's look at that. That's really the meat of it. Because otherwise we're going to go back to that as we're stressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want to go a little bit deeper as well, a lot of us, we all have a phase where we blamed our parents for our lives. Like, if I just had better parents, if I just did this, I'm like, really go back and like even talk to your parents, ask them questions about their lives, because you learn so much. And I become an adult and becoming a parent, I'm like, oh, my parents weren't at fault. They did what they knew to do. They went to their default, as we just said, right? And it's like, I have to extend them grace and say, okay, this is what they taught me, and I don't want to keep all these things, but let me figure out how to get better. So you have to take accountability for your own life at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and like you said, they probably learned it just like you learned it from watching them, like from their parents, whatever. So it just continues on. And you're also a certified health and wellness coach. Can you talk about how you incorporate like health and wellness into the work that you do as well?
Yes. So I like to talk about the mind, body, soul, the whole connection, because I believe you can't work on one thing without the other thing going up or going down, right? And so when I'm talking to the guys and I'm challenging them, I'm asking them about the nutrition. I'm asking them about, their fitness goals. Are like, are you actually doing any movement? If you're just going to go walk around your neighborhood, like, you have to have movement as a person, and even for your brain to really work at a function. Because I can tell you the mindset thing all day, but if you're not working on your body and your mind, then what's the point? You're just going to go back to your default. So I like to incorporate all of it and just educate. One Saturday, I actually did a lesson on breath work. So it's like, okay, guys, this is how we have to show up, because there's going to be stressful times when you're at work and you just want to cut somebody out or punch them in the face. This is like, here's a breath technique, right? I even talked about the importance of rest. I talked about healthy nutrition. I went spiritual. I try to incorporate holistically everything, because it has to be incorporated.
Yeah, you talked about building community for men, and I think that there's kind of a trend, especially since 2020, with more and more isolation for people in general. But I think particularly for men. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing there, and why that might be happening, and what men can do to try to be intentional about connecting when so many of those default connection points have kind of gone away?
Yeah. So pre-COVID, I believe everybody was kind of interacting. That was just the norm of the world, right? But COVID came, and now everybody, it was like lockdown. Everybody's in their homes, and you see divorces happening because a couple haven't even spent time with each other before. Like, that was mind blowing to me to see that happen, right? It's like, oh, you've been married for 10 years, but you never actually sat down with each other, and this is your breaking point. And I think it's a lot for friendships as well in men. But if you go into isolation, what are you really learning? There are seasons where you should be isolated, but there are seasons where you need community, even around those seasons. So what I've been seeing lately is a lot of the guys are craving it now. They want to get into like a brotherhood or a men's group or something to help them hold the weight, because life is heavy, especially as a man, as a woman, as a human, as a dog. Well, no, maybe not dog, but life is hard. You never know. Everybody has their demons that they're fighting, their past. But if you want to go in isolation and sit with those thoughts, or do you want to just come and learn? Because you never know who you will meet, who will get you to your destiny, right? And so a lot of guys, they seek healing just for being in a room. Sometimes as a coach, I get it. Just hearing the conversations. I think one session I started it off and I just let it flutter, and I didn't say anything, and I just sat here and watched, and all the guys were kind of corralling around each other. It's like, okay, this is what you're dealing with, man. Like, hey, think about this, think about that. And you can tell the person was getting a release just from hearing. And I was like, man, this is incredible to watch. Because you don't hear of men talking. You hear of us just being to ourselves and angry and all these random things that don't even apply to half of us or 90% of us, really. And just to see that happening, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure like giving them a space to like actually like share their emotions, like you said, break those patterns that maybe like men are told not to do, but other men around them are doing it, so it's more okay. I'm curious too, I know you mentioned like after COVID's where you like sought out a therapist and started virtual therapy as well. Like, what kind of led you to seek out a therapist? Was it that like COVID, like being isolated, or was there something else too that kind of led to seeking out that?
Ooh, tell my secret. Actually, COVID, I didn't lock down. I was still traveling and having fun. Right. But for me, I had just did a transition. So I was living in Atlanta during COVID, and I actually came back home to Houston, and living with my mom sent my nervous system into a shock. Right. And so I was like, I have to figure this out. My wife was like, well, let's try therapy. And I was just like, I'm good. And when I had met her, she was actually already in therapy and stuff for having her childhood things. And so I was like, let me try it. Let me see. So I sought out a woman. I was like, I need to figure out emotions. Who better to go to, right? And so I did that, and I was learning a lot about myself and realizing like, my nervous system is fried because of my childhood trauma with my mom. So just her presence in my life, I didn't feel safe. And so I was like, okay, it sparked the interest. I'm like, okay, what else can I find out about myself? You have to really get curious about yourself. And I've learned so much from the two therapists that I've had. And I'm like, okay, it's time to go back.
Yeah. Uh, it can be a challenge too to go back to therapy when we've kind of
Mhm.
taken a break from it, and sometimes there can be a sense of, well, I learned a lot, these other times, but like, do I really need it now? So I love that you kind of came to that and you were like, nope, it is time. Like now it's time to kind of go back. And maybe that's for a season, and there's always new things that we're exploring about ourselves and we're understanding about ourselves. And sometimes it takes time for those things that we uncovered or learned the first go around. It takes time for that to really settle into who we are and become part of our identity, and for us to have multiple experiences with this new understanding, so that now that becomes a pattern. So I think it's a great example for others to go, yeah, when I'm seeing some signs that this might be the next thing to do, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it doesn't have to be forever, right? I'm still going to benefit from it as I'm doing it. So I think that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Learn and then implementing has been my strategy for it. Let me go and learn a little bit and I'm gonna implement. And I'm strategic about the therapist that I find, because I always want somebody who's at a level higher than where I'm trying to get to, because okay, you know what it takes to get there mentally as well. And so when I'm bringing these things to you, you know what to do.
Was it hard for you to like implement some of those things you were learning through counseling? Since at first you were like, nah, I don't need counseling or whatever. And then like hearing like, oh, like learning all this about myself, like how did you start to like implement those things that you were learning?
It took a while because I was still kind of like on the fence, like, I don't know about this. And so it was a lot of things that I like. One of my therapists gave me homework and I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I never did it. To this day, I still haven't done it. Actually, no, I actually did do it. But this was like after I ended my sessions with him, randomly, I just did it. And so that goes to say, just because you can't get it now doesn't mean you won't do it later. But it was hard because I was like, I really have to see myself and really be vulnerable with myself in order to get the help. And I think a lot of people seek therapy, they seek coaches, but they're not seeking themselves first. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, how are you going to be honest with me? And so I had to have that realization, like, okay, I have to really figure this out, because now I have a family looking at me and I'm like, I'm supposed to be this leader and I don't even know how to do this. There's no manual, right? And so it was hard. It was super hard. But after I started to do it and I started to see the benefits and I started to study other like books and reading, even watching some good movies, right? I started to like piece things together. I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't that bad. I'm still alive. I haven't died from this yet. So I just kept going.
When you talk about your personal journeys and your personal work, you so often reference your family, and that you do so many of these things because your family is looking to you for leadership. Your family is looking to you for example, and your children are seeing the things that you're doing, and you're doing this for them. Uh, that's not always the case, right? For parents. And so
Right.
uh, tell me a little bit about how you came into that, because I think in our previous episode, it didn't sound to me like that was necessarily always modeled for you. And so how did you
It
become a
wasn't.
person who says, my family is first, that is what's driving me? And how do you help others to kind of get into that same mindset?
Well, to your point, it wasn't my thing last time or before, really, because growing up, I didn't have like the loving family that told you I loved you and I support you. Like I was the kid who wasn't getting supported. I remember getting drugged to my brother's baseball games, football games, but then when it was my turn, nobody was there. So it's like and even at 16, wanted to commit suicide, like from all of that, right? I didn't have that. And even when I first started my family, I was like, why do I have this family? Like I never really wanted to be married. I never wanted a kids. Why do I have this stuff now? So I kind of took it for granted until I lost everything. I lost everything, dead broke. And I was like, I have nothing, but I have them. And so sitting in that, it made me realize like, this is the most important thing. Like, because the money comes and goes, the fame comes and go, careers come and go. I just changed careers. I was in tech for 10 years. Now I'm health coaching, right? And so things change, but your family is still going to be your family. They might grow, their attitudes might get worse, some might get better. But at the end of the day, that's all I had. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this for anybody other than myself, it really has to be you guys. And then it can be like the other men that I'm pouring into that I'm teaching. So ways I can help that is just really by demonstrating. I'm taking my content in a different direction now. Instead of just sounding like the coach who just comes on and says, hey, you should do this. I actually want to model it. I actually want people to see what it looks like to be a healthy husband, a healthy father, or a healthy man in general, right? And so that's why my content kind of changes a lot now. It's like you'll see me doing background stuff. I made content when I was in the woods. Simple things. People see me doing it. And so that's my new approach for it. Sometimes we have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and like you said, you're going out now and doing like Saturdays, like with people in person. So you're like, they're seeing you in like life, not just on social media as well, like meeting with them on Saturdays and doing things. Can you give some examples of things that you are doing with your group of men on Saturdays that men who maybe are listening in the area might be able to join you with?
So with the Saturday calls are actually virtual. And that just started off as giving men an open space to say, hey, like come in and share your heart, what's on your heart, or whatever, something you need help with. That has blossomed. I've been letting the guys kind of guide it. Like, tell me what you need and I can help provide it, right? And like, I think that the Bible came up one day and everybody was like, let's do Bible study on Saturdays. I was like, okay, let's do it, right? And so that's been the thing. As in person, I am starting in person once a month. I'm looking for a set place and time, but I know that's coming soon. And then with the live podcast episodes, I actually want people to be able to come in and sit and ask questions and things. So it's all transforming still as I'm going. I think a lot of times we look at, I want it to be like this before I put it out. But if you put it out and then refine it, it gets better over time. And then the people who are coming to you can actually tell you what they need.
Absolutely. Yeah. If we develop the things in our lives based on the reality of the thing existing and the feedback that the thing gets as it grows, then it's going to be much more in line with the reality around us than trying to plan it all in our heads, because gosh, exactly. In our heads we don't know anything about what's going to happen.
There's too much. There's too like the world has become so like it's so much. Somebody's always trying to sell you something, right? If you're watching TV or listening to radio, somebody's always trying to tell you how to think, what you should have. And so just it's crazy, right? So you have to dilute. And that too. I'm actually starting a new segment where I'm having calls on Wednesday nights for those guys who want to come in and get the room without the Bible study part. Because I was like, okay, if this is where you guys want to take this, well, let me start up another call on Wednesday night. So that one is actually coming a lot sooner than the in-persons. But yeah, that's coming.
Yeah, it's important to have all of those different ways of communication, those different ways of connecting, because something might be a fit for one person and not the other. And so having that variety is helpful. Yeah, wonderful. Well, I'm curious if there is some suggestion that you would have for somebody who might be on the fence about starting either coaching or counseling or therapy. What suggestion might you give them?
Try it. And even if you're scared, honestly, with my therapist, I interview therapists. Like it's never just like, oh, I found somebody, let me just, go. I actually watch their content. I look at what they're talking about, what they stand on. And when we get on those consultations, they're free. Take them, right? And ask the questions that you want to ask, because at the end of the day, you decide who you want to work with in your life. And it goes for coaching too. Look at content, talk to people, and like really see who's a good fit for you. And there may be programs where you get into and you realize, oh, this is not a fit for me, but at least you tried, right? You're still alive. So it's just like, move on to the next person. You still learn something in every room that you walk into or every session that you get into, even if it isn't a good fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. We love having you as a guest. If you are listening to the episode and you want to get in contact with Adam, his website is riseinnerking.com, or you can also find him on Instagram at @theadamwilson_. And his podcast, Inner King Podcast, is linked on his website as well.
I'm Adam Wilson, and I need a counselor.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.